Welcome to part 2 of the ZR2 Bison off-road review. John here from IDK Off-Road. As you might know, this truck has been through the ringer over the past year, and in this two-part series I aim to go over what this truck's capabilities are off-road. In the last video we talked about what made the Bison what it is and how that actually translated off-road, along with some pretty general tips for anybody looking to get into wheeling as a hobby. In this video, we're going to go over the tires, their importance, the damage so far, and my opinion after 1 year of wheeling with this rig. So let's get into it. Onto the wheels. The ZR2 Bison comes stock with 31x10 Duratracs on a special 17-inch AEV rim. The first run I did was completely stock, and I'll be honest, the tires held up pretty good. They climbed over the rocks with relative ease. A bit of spinning in that soupy stuff, but you know, not too bad. All around a decent tire. They got me into some pretty hairy situations and pulled through for the most part. 31x10s are a bit small though, pretty narrow, which means less traction, even aired down. And if you go bigger, more clearance. Now what you see here is 33 by 12.5 inch General Grabber X3s on a 17-inch aftermarket rim. I was worried about the bronze rim at first, but I think it looks pretty good on this truck. So the decision was made to up the tire size and go with mud terrains early on. I get about an extra inch of clearance maybe over the stock tires, and the wider, more aggressive pattern of the X3s allow to climb and get through the swampy stuff with relative ease. They are a little louder on the road, and my gas mileage did drop a bit. I average around 18 liters. Yeah, not that good, but in my opinion, the bigger tires are well worth the added traction off-road. And they look pretty badass as well. No spacers. What you see is the rims offset, so that's why they stick out a bit. I did need to put an inch level in the front, which simply just brings the front end up just a little bit. Also, there was some cutting here in the front in order to fit the bigger tires. No lift was necessary though, since the ZR2s come lifted 2 inches from the factory. So what have I learned about the importance of tires? They are key to off-roading. Wider, taller tires will give you much more traction and a tiny bit more clearance, which are pretty much the two factors that will determine success or getting stuck. Just remember that the only thing that gives you more clearance is the size of your tires. Those on 37s will breeze through things that will get me hung up on my 33s. So without trying to get into the whole tire war of which tire is best and you know, all that good stuff, I'm just going to give you my personal opinion. If you are serious into getting into off-roading, I would highly suggest mud terrains as your #1 option. They are louder, use up a little bit more gas, and will definitely wear a little bit faster, but the traction off-road cannot be disputed. Casual wheeling or sticking to trails, then definitely go with the all-terrains. They will be more than enough. They are quieter on the road, and they will generally last a little bit longer due to the harder rubber. Now, I'm just going to put this out here. There is excellent tires in both categories that are able to handle pretty much any situation. Do your own research on what you want. Me personally, I love these grabbers. They're amazing. Remember to rotate tires often also, ensuring to get that full-size spare into the rotation. With good tires and those lockers, the Bison will go places other trucks might have a bit of trouble with. I'm not going to get into airing down in this video since it's not really specific to the Bison. Just know that if you're going anywhere remotely difficult, it's a must. It'll give you much more traction. Do a little bit of research on the vehicle you have. Generally speaking, I go down to about 15 psi when off-roading. Now it's time to see the battle scars. First up, here's a bit of the pinstriping and scratches. Hard to see on cam, but they are there, trust me. This is unavoidable. It's due to branches and overhang. It can be mitigated slightly by going super slow, but it is inevitable. A lot does buff out, and you know, from a distance you can't really see it. So Jeeps have this thing called mag armor to protect the paint somewhat, but it's not made for trucks. So I ordered a big roll of magnetic car sign, 3 millimeters thick, and made my own. No joke, this truck would look way worse without it. And it has truly saved the paint and prevented some serious gouges. Next up is my first big break on my first ever off-road run. The rear shock. And it wasn't even from a rock. The rear end broke through some ice on a trail, and I gunned it to get back up. The ice was thick and hit the shock just at the right spot, bending it. I finished the run not even knowing it was bent, but it was an expensive fix. During another run, I was an idiot and decided to send it into a mud pit I had no business being in. Belt disintegrated, fan had to be taken apart and put back together because it was jammed with mud. The alternator was blown, had to get a new one. Rad was caked in dried up mud. It was a nightmare and cost a lot. Here's a tip. If your vehicle isn't made for mud bogging, avoid mud pits. Rigs don't like mud. It'll start to break stuff. Moving on, some old lady wasn't paying attention and turned into the truck while we were parked in a parking lot. Her car doors were pushed in hard, and this is the only thing that happened to the Bison. A scratch, basically. Steel bumpers for the win, right? Told the old lady to put away her insurance. Her car was going to be expensive enough to fix, and I also said to make sure to look both ways next time. Next up, on a winter run, the front end was bouncing on some rocks going uphill. Snapped the driver's side tie rod in half and crushed the front stabilizer bar, also known as a sway bar link. As you can see, the tie rods are pretty skinny, but there is a sleeve GM has that will toughen them up a bit. Another future purchase. Other than that, the rock sliders, tubular guards, skids, bumpers, they've all got their beauty marks. So just a quick note here. The big expensive brakes that happened on this truck were due mostly to user error, inexperience. Truck holds up just fine on most of the runs, but when things broke, it was usually due to going a little bit too fast over an obstacle or dumping it in a mud pit. Not really the truck's fault. So I'm just going to throw this out here right now. Joining an off-road group is one of the best ways for a new wheeler to get a head start on off-roading. As you probably already know, IDK Off-Road is a very proud member of the Pirate Off-Road Nation. This is a group who isn't brand exclusive, meaning whatever you want to take wheeling, you're more than welcome. It's not a Jeep only group. The wealth of knowledge, the help, the assistance, and honestly the great times with the great people truly make off-roading what it is. Not only that, but if you are new, like I was and still kind of am, it's always good to have experienced folk around you. On that note, take a look around your area. There's probably many different types of off-road groups, whether it be a Jeep only or a more inclusive like Pirate Off-Road Nation. I'm sure you'll find something that fits your style and fits your needs. So am I still happy with this truck? Look, I did a ton of research before deciding to buy this particular truck. Looked at Tacomas, the new Ranger, even full-size trucks. I don't hate on any of the brands, and I am definitely not a GM enthusiast. I mean, look at Tacomas. Amazing off-road trucks, and look how long they last. So deciding to drop the amount of cash for this truck was not an easy decision, but the options were weighed, and I truly believe that it was and still is the best option. No regrets buying this truck whatsoever. Don't get me wrong, I mean, there is definitely room for improvement. For the amount of money that this rig cost, you'd think that there would be steel shock skids, or the tie rods would be a little bit more beefier. Also, no option for an auxiliary transmission cooler, because when towing stuff, like I said in the previous video, this rig likes to heat up pretty fast. But she's a good looking rig, and she does perform great on and off the pavement. She goes most places a Jeep can. Sometimes a little assistance is needed, usually due to being longer, and it can be difficult to navigate those tight trails from time to time. But sometimes the longer wheelbase can actually be an advantage. It all depends on the situation. And I'll say this, the other trucks that I wheeled with, they've had no problem hitting trails either. However, with the abuse that this rig has been through and some of the places she's been, I'm very happy I made the choice that I did. So the lockers, the protection, the shocks, and the comfort and ability to be a sick looking daily driver as well, I would definitely buy this truck over the rest all over again. So that was IDK Off-Road's review of the ZR2 Bison. And like I mentioned in the first video, I don't really take it that easy on this truck. So comment down below if there's anything that you'd like me to go over in regards to this rig, or perhaps go more in depth on. I'll be glad to put out more content. Hit that like and subscribe to help out a new and young off-road channel grow. And if you've watched up into this point, I want to say thanks. It's very appreciated. All right, cheers, happy wheeling.